Now, across Texas, the issue is.
I'm Stephen Dial in Dallas.
I'm Greg Grugan in Houston.
I'm Rudy Koski in Austin, and this is Texas, the issue is.
There's about less than 10 days until Texans get to early vote in this presidential election that's shaping up to be historic. This week, the DNC chair, Jamie Harrison, was in North Texas campaigning in Tarrant and Dallas counties. I talked to him one-on-one about why he's so focused on the Lone Star State.
This is the one thing I've learned from campaigns over the years. Close elections, margin of error elections are won on the ground.
I know you're from a red state, but less than 2 weeks until early voting, what are you doing here in Texas?
Because Texas is probably the hottest Senate race in the country right now. Probably the most competitive Senate race that we see in the country. Collin Allred has really built a great operation here that has Ted Cruz worried. He's very, very concerned. You know, I got a good friend who you know who often says when they count you out, you teach them they don't know how to count. And that is what Collin's doing right now. People have counted him out, but he's showing folks that you can't count him out.
Democrats have not won statewide here since the early 90s. If people are complaining about Republican leadership, why do they keep electing them here in Texas? Why do you
Well,
think?
I think people are starting to get fed up with the Republican leadership, and I think that's why you see that this race is so close. Because it's time for something different. You know, Republicans in Texas can't complain that it's Democrats that are doing this and Democrats doing that. You control it all. You know, if your schools aren't good right now, who should you blame? The Republicans. If your hospital and the health care is mediocre, who should you complain about? It's the Republicans because they control it all.
I'm from Georgia.
Yes.
Georgia turned blue in 2020, but it has totally different political makeup and voter participation than Texas. Why do Democrats see Texas as a state that could maybe be a swing state like Georgia in the near future?
Well, actually, when you take a look at demographically, Texas demographics compared to Georgia, you would think that Texas would have been blue before Georgia. And this is a majority minority state, right? When you look at it. And so, but it's now far time for people to turn out. Yes, it is great in terms of having that diverse representation, but those folks need to turn out and vote for their best interests. Vote for somebody who's actually going to fight for you. Vote for somebody who's actually going to do things. And when Texas moderates its politics, because right now it has some of the most extreme leaders in the country here in Texas, from your lieutenant governor to your U.S. senator. Think about you moderate those politics a little bit, and where most of the American people are is in the middle.
Do you think Collin Allred wins because people are not satisfied with Ted Cruz, or do you think there will be enough Democrat turnout to turn Texas blue? Are you looking at this as a Senate win and making baby steps, or?
Well, I think the primary race in the state was first the U.S. Senate, because I think that's the one that's closer to a lot of folks. I believe Collin's going to pull this thing off. And as a result of pulling this off, it's going to be a brand new day for Texas. Again, the eyes of the world will then shine on Texas. You will then see this become a much more competitive state.
All right. So my word for that interview is it's not necessarily about the interview, but it's uncomfortable. Greg, what is your word?
Stephen, I'm pulling a Rudy with the hyphenated word Kool-Aid. You know, the political kind.
Mm-hmm. All right, Rudy, go ahead.
Guys, I think I'm going to go with geometry. Geometry.
I think some math's involved. All right, the Fox Texas Trio will discuss on the other side of this break. The Fox Texas Trio is back. I talked to DNC Chair Jamie Harrison, who surprised some people by spending some time in North Texas with early voting about to start. Greg, we talked months ago about Democrats initially throwing money at races like Collin Allred and then possibly the well drying up as we head into the final stretch. That's not the case. What do you think of the Democrat strategy in Texas?
Look, Stephen, I wish I had just a sliver of the outside Democratic cash that's been invested in Texas over the years with nothing really to show for it. Clearly, Team Blue is playing the long game because, frankly, they really have no other choice. I mean, the hard fact is the Texas political roadside is littered with high-profile, charismatic, well-funded progressives like Beto O'Rourke and Wendy Davis. Will this year be different against a vulnerable Ted Cruz? My best guess is it will take a perfect storm of highly energized abortion rights voters, hefty African-American pro-Harris participation, combined with a lackadaisical turnout from Republicans in a state pretty much everyone has already racked up for Donald Trump. Remember, Texas has been minority-majority for exactly 20 years, and Democrats still have yet to punch through statewide. Harrison has one thing right. If they ever pull it off, it will be, an apocalyptic event for Republicans on the national level.
Oh, yeah, I think, I think we'll see more news trucks arriving in Texas if that happens on Election Day. Rudy, do you agree with Greg's synopsis of this?
Yeah, I think Greg did it pretty good. Good night. No. The Democrats have certainly jumped into Texas with a calculated plan like Greg's talking about, which is why my word is geometry. Basic math says they don't win, though, because there are certainly more Republicans than Democrats registered to vote right now. Some crazy math involving turnout could certainly crunch out an upset flip, deciding the Senate race and maybe even some down ballot races when all the votes are counted. But I think that the equation for the Democrats can be summed up with an old dad joke, one that makes my kids' eyes roll. That joke, you'll remember this. What did the acorn say after falling to the ground several years ago? Geometry. Ugh.
Oh, my God.
Sorry. The strategy for the Democrats since Obama left office has been to plant seeds in down ballot positions like city council seats and school board races. So, Stephen, I kind of disagree with the chair there. You got to blame the Democrats for things done on the down ballot. They control a lot of city councils. They control a lot of school boards. That's where a lot of decisions are being made and money being spent. But the grassroots strategy has been adding up for them lately. Sure has.
Greg, the DNC chair said he was specifically here because, in his words, the Texas Senate race is the most competitive in the country. Do you agree with that assessment?
Stephen, we all know what the polls say, so I'm going to approach that question a little differently. I went to a Cruz rally last week, and to my surprise, the senator barely even mentioned Collin Allred in his stump speech. He talked about the border crisis, inflation, jobs, taxes, and even national security, but not his opponent. Now, my read is that Ted Cruz was essentially playing it safe because he's pretty confident his fairly slim lead will hold up down the stretch, barring a major mistake. The wild card here is Allred's carpet bomb ad campaign focused on abortion with the aim of making this race a referendum on Cruz's leadership and promoting Allred as the reasonable alternative.
Rudy, Kentucky, not too far from here, I guess, in a way. Kentucky has a Democrat governor, Republican senators. My home state of Georgia has a Republican governor, Democrat senators. Can that happen in Texas? Is it actually a long shot, or could this year be something different?
It could be something different. The simple answer, though, it's historically, it's all about turnout. But as the state becomes more diverse, and I think personalities and the media marketing that Greg was talking about will certainly come into play. And that's certainly happening right now in the Senate race. Both camps pushing hard for the female vote. Allred ads blaming Cruz for the tough abortion restrictions in Texas, and Cruz ads claiming Allred supports allowing biological males who identify as women into women's sports. So, it's a lot about turnout right now, and I also agree with the chair. Moderates. People want to think about moderates.
All right, quick answer for you guys, about 30 seconds. If Collin Allred loses by 3 or less, should that sound the alarm bells for Republicans? Greg, you first, really quick.
All right, Stephen, the most disciplined politicians always run as if they're losing. A super tight race could signal a need for Republicans to rein in their radicals or face the consequences.
Rudy?
Stephen, the alarm bells for Republicans, I think, have been ringing for 8 years now. They need to listen.
All right, that's all the time we have to see this episode or any of our past ones. Go to our station's YouTube channels.
And keep the conversation going by messaging us on social media.
The baseball season, like political campaigns, wrapping up, and an Austin group is trying to steal the issue is by announcing an effort to bring Major League Baseball to Central Texas. We'll take a swing at that next week.